Do you ever feel like a part of you is still stuck in childhood, reliving memories that shouldn't haunt you? You're not alone. The weight of emotional neglect can be crushing, making it difficult to shake off the feeling that you're not good enough, no matter how hard you try. You may think that childhood trauma is something that only affects you when you're a child, but the truth is, its effects can linger long into adulthood. When we experience emotional neglect as kids, being consistently dismissed, ignored, or belittled by our caregivers, it can shape our brain's expectation of what love and connection look like. And often, this can manifest in our adult relationships. For instance, you might find yourself drawn to people who are unavailable or unresponsive, because somehow that feels familiar. Or maybe you're the one always trying to please everyone else, hoping that if you just do enough, they'll finally notice and validate you. This is like being stuck in a cycle of trying to fill up an empty bucket. No matter how hard you pour in, it never seems to get full. You might be carrying this weight without even realizing it. Maybe you're constantly second-guessing yourself or feeling like you're not good enough, and you just can't shake off that feeling. It's like having a constant companion, one that whispers you're not worthy in your ear whenever you try to take a step forward. Think back to the relationships you've had in your adult life. Were there partners or friends who drained your energy, manipulated you, or made you feel small? Maybe they were charming at first, but their behavior eventually became controlling or toxic. When we experience traumatic relationships as children, whether it's emotional neglect, physical abuse, or parental conflict, our nervous system gets rewired to anticipate danger. We become hypervigilant, constantly scanning for signs of potential harm. As adults, this can manifest as a pattern of attracting people who mirror the toxic dynamics of our childhood. You might find yourself tolerating relationships that feel suffocating, yet somehow you stick around, hoping things will change. This is often self-sabotage at play. We're unconsciously recreating familiar patterns because it's what we know, even if it hurts us. It's like trying to make a broken piece of pottery whole again by gluing the cracks. We may think we're repairing ourselves, but in reality we're perpetuating the damage. You know how sometimes you can be doing everything right. You've got a good job, a loving partner, friends who care about you, but somehow nothing feels quite right. Maybe you wake up in the morning feeling like you're just going through the motions. Or perhaps you'll push yourself to achieve great things, but feel an overwhelming sense of emptiness afterwards. That's what it can feel like when we're struggling with high-functioning depression. It's not always about being sad or hopeless. Sometimes it's more like a dull numbness that follows us everywhere. And the thing is, this form of depression often masquerades as anxiety, burnout, or even perfectionism. Think of it like trying to hold water in a leaky bucket. You can keep pouring in all these good things, but if the underlying cracks aren't addressed, eventually everything starts to seep out. That's what high-functioning depression can feel like we're constantly patching up the surface level, but neglecting the deeper wounds that need healing. You know how sometimes you find yourself overthinking every little decision? Like, you can't even choose what to eat for dinner without getting caught up in the what-ifs and maybes. It's like your brain is stuck on repeat, replaying all the possible outcomes, trying to pick the right one. But here's the thing, this pattern of thought isn't just about being indecisive or anxious. For many people, it's a coping mechanism rooted in childhood trauma. You know how sometimes you say yes to things when deep down, you really want to say no? Maybe it's a social invitation or a work project that feels overwhelming. You might even find yourself overcommitting just to avoid conflict or rejection. For some of us, this people-pleasing behavior started in childhood. Perhaps we had to constantly adapt to our family dynamics or navigate chaotic environments. As adults, this habit can manifest as difficulty setting boundaries. Imagine you're at a restaurant and someone reaches across the table to grab your last slice of pizza without asking. You might feel a twinge of resentment, but if that's what happened in your childhood, say, with a sibling or parent constantly taking things from you without permission, you might freeze up now, too anxious to assert yourself. You see it as a way to maintain harmony, even though it's actually a disservice to yourself and others. It takes courage to set boundaries and learn that no is okay. For those carrying childhood trauma, this can be especially daunting. But recognizing the root of our behavior is the first step towards change. So, you might find yourself consistently making choices that undermine your own goals and aspirations. Maybe you're always late to work, or you procrastinate on projects until the last minute. Or perhaps you have a tendency to self-sabotage in relationships by pushing people away just when they start to get close. This behavior can be incredibly puzzling, especially if you feel like you're trying your best. But here's the thing. Self-sabotage is often a coping mechanism that developed as a way to protect yourself from future pain. Think of it like setting up a firewall on your computer. It may seem counterintuitive, but its purpose is to prevent damage. In this case, the damage is emotional harm. If you experienced trauma in childhood, you might have developed habits or patterns that made sense back then, but now they're holding you back. For example, let's say you grew up with a parent who was always critical and dismissive of your efforts. As an adult, you may find yourself consistently striving for perfection, even when it's not necessary, as if trying to prove yourself to an invisible audience. This is often a misguided attempt to avoid feeling that old pain all over again. You know how sometimes you find yourself saying yes to things that don't really feel right for you? Maybe it's a party invitation from a friend, or a work project that drains your energy. You might even convince yourself that you're doing it for the greater good, but deep down, it's because you're trying to avoid feeling like you're not enough. I want to take a moment to acknowledge that carrying childhood trauma can feel like being stuck in a perpetual state of fog. It's hard to see the way forward, and every step feels uncertain. But here's the thing, you're not alone. There are millions of people who've walked this path before you, and they're still standing. Think of it like a dense forest. It's easy to get lost in the underbrush, but with each step, the trees begin to thin out, and eventually you'll find your way through. It won't be easy, and there will be moments when it feels like you're taking 3 steps back for every one forward. But I want you to know that healing is possible. I remember a client who shared with me her childhood experience of feeling constantly criticized by her parents. She thought she was broken, unworthy, and unlovable. But as we worked together, she began to see patterns in her relationships, how she'd attract partners who mirrored those same criticisms. It was like she was trying to prove herself worthy all over again. But with each small victory, she started to see herself in a new light. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to remember that healing from childhood trauma is a lifelong process. It's not about erasing the pain, but about learning to live with it in a way that no longer defines you. You've taken the first step by acknowledging your pain, and now it's time to take small steps towards healing today.